Constructing your jewelry pieces and the craftsmanship that is involved is our primary concern. But it's also important to be able to make your own findings that are the attachments that are added onto the jewelry so that they can be worn, hung. In this case, the finding that we're going to discuss is an eye pin, and the eye pin is inserted into the actual earring, and the earring is hung from it, and the ear wire is attached to the eye pin. I've also constructed the ear wire. This is a handmade ear wire, and I'll detail how to do that in a separate video. For this video, we're going to concentrate on how to construct the simple eye pin, and I call these wire-wrapped eye pins with coils because the wrap over here assumes the shape of a coil. The beauty of making your own findings is you can customize them. For example, here I use niobium wire that's anodized to a blue finish, and I think the blue of the wire complements the blue in the pendants very nicely. I could have also used red anodized wire. It's important to mention that I use hypo-allergenic wire if it's intended to be worn on the body. So for the ear wire here, which we will cover in another video, the niobium is hypoallergenic. Keep in mind, if you don't wish to make your own findings, all of this type are readily available in any good craft store or jewelry supply shop. A close-up view of the wire-wrapped coiled eye pin that we're about to make. The tools that will be needed to construct the eye pin are your round nose pliers, the flat nose pliers, and your side cutters. I begin by cutting myself a few 2-inch lengths of wire. For the video, I'm using my standard nickel silver wire 20 gauge. I always like to measure and cut one length, then use that length no matter what I'm doing as my ruler to measure additional lengths. In this case, I'm only going to cut 2. To form the eye pin, I hold the wire firmly with my round nose pliers relatively close to one of the ends, a little bit more than a ½ inch from the end of the wire. This results in a short end and a long end. At that point, I bend the wire at 45-degree angle. Having bent the wire at that 45-degree angle, now I'm going to take the long end and continue to bend it up and around the tip of the round nose pliers, like you see me doing. Nice. See how the round nose pliers enabled me to create that form. Having created that top loop, I will now take my flat nose pliers, hold the loop firmly with the flat nose pliers, and proceed to wrap the remaining length of wire around the straight length. This is an eye pin I made using niobium wire, and you see the coil. I usually try to achieve 3 loops for the coil. Hold it firmly with the pliers and wrap. 1 wrap, 2 wraps. Having wrapped the wire around the straight length approximately 3 times, I will take my side cutters, push them tightly up against the excess that remains. See how I grab that? And get as close. I'm really pressing into that and cut off that excess. This is why you need to be wearing goggles. That little piece can fly out and hit you in the eye. To finish this, what I like to do is take my flat nose and grab the little tip that tends to stick up and press it down. If you were working with sterling silver, you'd be able to take your flat nose and simply turn the silver within the jaws of the pliers, applying slight pressure. Silver is wonderfully malleable, and that action of turning in the jaws of the pliers would flatten the metal a little bit and help it conform to the wire leg underneath. There we have it. That's not a bad looking eye pin. The eye pin is the finding that I insert into the channel that's pre-made into the earrings, the watercolor paper earrings that'll eventually hold your ear wire. Now, just one final suggestion when you make these. It's difficult sometimes with a short length of wire to achieve the wrap. So what you might want to do is cut a longer length than 2 inches. I like to minimize my waste. If this was sterling, I would certainly only use 2 inches of wire. But if you need to, you can cut maybe 3 inches and it'll give you a longer length for the wrap. Let me take a moment and show you what I'm talking about. Instead of a 2-inch length, we now have a 3-inch length to work with. I'm still going to place my round nose about a 1/2 inch or so from the end of the wire, and I'll bend it out at a 45. Now I wrap the remaining longer length around the pliers, just like you saw me do in the one I just finished. But see how much longer the pieces that I have to work with, and wrap it around? And that might be necessary to achieve good results. I'll hold the loop, the centered loop, firmly with my flat nose, and now very easily I can wrap the long length See how nice that is? Now, of course, there's always a price to be paid. Using a longer length means you're going to have more waste. This is nickel silver wire. If this was sterling, the waste could become expensive. Like we did with the previous one, I'll take my cutters, push it against the piece, I'll press down that little piece that tends to stick up, and I usually trim the length of this a bit because it doesn't need to be that long, maybe down to a 1/2 inch. A completed wire-wrapped eye pin. Beautiful. Making your own findings, and you've just watched me create wire-wrapped pins, gives you a certain amount of creative flexibility because you can often color coordinate the finding to the piece, and I did it with this one. As you see, I used blue niobium wire to sort of accentuate the blue that's in the piece. Or I could have used red to pick up a little bit of the red. With a little practice, you'll have no trouble making these eye pins. I prefer the look of the handmade eye pin to store-bought machine-made eye pins. I hope you enjoyed watching this video on how to make eye pins. Thanks for watching.